Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima. Welcome back to Blue Boards. This time we're going to be taking a look at Fantasy Realms by Bruce Glasgow. Now you might have noticed that I haven't actually opened up the cards yet, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One, I haven't actually had the opportunity to play this game physically, because we're still in the middle of a lockdown. They'll likely end sooner rather than later, but yeah, I've had this game for a couple of weeks now, and I just haven't had the opportunity to pop out the physical version. The second is that I've been waiting for sleeves to come in, but they've been taking a bloody long time, and I don't want to take the cards out of the wrappers until I can protect them from damage, because this game has a lot of shuffling. So you might be thinking, how are we actually going to take a look at the game? Well, we're going to do it via this absolutely fantastic tabletop simulator implementation by Ramen Flame. It's fully scripted, so you don't have to worry about any of the fiddliness of Tabletop Simulator. It's got computer players, and it's got automated scoring, so it takes care of all the really hard stuff for you, and it makes the game an absolute breeze to play. And this mod is the reason why I bought the physical version of the game, because yeah, it's that good. It's convinced me via giving me a reasonable implementation to play it by, and that's the reason why Tabletop Simulator should have its workshop just kind of let go, because you can convince people to buy your game through it, so why wouldn't you? But anyway, let's take a look at the actual game itself. And I'm going to teach you the full rules right here, right now, before we actually start a game, because they're really simple. At the beginning of the game, you get a hand of 7 cards. Draw a card from the center, or draw one of the discards that's in the middle. When you do that, you then discard a card back to the discards. When the discards are filled up to 10 cards in the base game and 12 with the expansion, the game ends and you tally up your points. You get points via the cards here, and the cards have their base strength in the top left, their suit on the left, and then their bonuses and penalties down the bottom here. Bonuses are usually benefits, penalties are usually problems. And then there's a special kind of bonus called clearing, which can clear the penalty off certain cards, whether it be certain kinds of penalty, like for example here, clears the word army from all penalties. So for example, it would take out the army penalty here on the Great Flood, and then there'll just be ones that'll just clear out penalties entirely, so that the card is basically just, for example, the Wildfire would have 40 points and no downsides whatsoever. There are also blanks in penalties, and blanks basically make it so that those cards don't exist. So this one says blanks all cards except yada yada yada. So for the Rangers, this card would be worth no points, it would have no bonus, and no suit. It would be worth nothing. It's basically like it's not in your hand. And through this combination of cards, the game gives you this incredibly clever and well-balanced puzzle about the realm that you need to build. And to demonstrate, I'm going to add in 2 computer players, and we're going to start a game. And yeah, it just does this automatically, and the computer takes their turn, and they're really quick about it. A single player implementation of this is just something else entirely. But anyway, let's demonstrate how the game works by playing a hand of it. So we've got a few options here. The game has given us our 7-card hand, and we basically need to figure out what we plan on doing with it. So we've got some Elven Archers here that work with the King, because it gets a bonus for each army. We've got an Earth Elemental and another land, basically straight up, and we've got cleared penalties on all weather, which might actually work well for us if the opportunity arises. We've also got a Warlord out here, and if we take the Warlord and make it work with the King, we can start building up an Elven Archer strategy. And we've also got a Warship here, so if we can get our hands on a Flood, that might be worth something, but getting our hands on a Flood might be a problem, because there doesn't seem to be any real Floods out right now. So we're going to draw a card from the top of the deck and take our chances. And we've got a Protection Rune, which will protect us from penalties on all cards, but scores nothing as a result. Well, 1 is basically nothing in this game. It is very hard to get a score under 100 unintentionally. That's the kind of scores we're working with here. So if we really want to make that work, we're going to need a lot of really strong cards with really bad penalties. So I think for now we're going to drop off the Fire Elemental and see what comes out next. So someone took the Warlord and dropped the Shapeshifter, then he took the Fire Elemental and dropped the Swamp. That makes things interesting. So we can take the Swamp and make it so that our Warship works better, but I don't think that's going to be the best play in the long run. We've also got a Shapeshifter, which can pretend to be any card in the deck in terms of its name and suit, but nothing else. So we might be able to make something else work depending on what comes up next. With that said, let's draw another card. Warhorse. Whoops. 14 plus with any leader or wizard. We're probably going to want to hang on to that because that's 20 bucks straight, 20 points straight up. So what do we do next? So what does that card out here give us again? Artifact, leader, wizard, weapon, or beast. So we could turn that cavern into a 30-pointer by taking that shapeshifter and making it into a dragon. And that might actually be worth it in the long run for the points. And I'm not making any use of that as protection rune, so we're going to drop that. Someone's going to take that immediately, I'm willing to bet. No one wants it. Okay, that makes things interesting, because that's usually really good for getting rid of penalties on cards like Wildfire, because it would make it basically just a 40 point straight up. No downsides to it whatsoever. So that's an interesting play. So we've got a Mirage out as well, and it can pretend to be a land. And if it's a land, that means it'll get another benefit off of the Earth Elemental. So I think our plan here is clear. We go for the land bonuses, more or less. So I think we're going to take that Mirage. And then we're going to drop off the archers, because they're not worth many points right now. Someone's dropped the magic wand, which is good for a wizard, but then they've immediately swapped that out. So I'm willing to bet that yellow over here is working towards a strategy with a wizard, maybe the Beastmaster, which is good for getting rid of penalties on beasts. So what do we do with what we've got and what's out there? Might be a good idea to take along the Doppelganger. It can't copy the bonus, but it might be able to copy something more worthwhile. No, on second thought, that's probably not a good idea. We should probably stick with our land strategy. So I think we'll draw, see what comes up. Oh, it's the Beastmaster. That makes things interesting. I think the card we want to get rid of now is the Warship, because it's not going to do us any good in the long run. So red took the Warship, and then they took the Princess to drop off the Empress. Okay, that makes things interesting. That's what I mean by this game's got a ton of strategy in it, because a lot of these cards have a lot of different potential combos with each other. And I actually have this base realm deck here that we can use as a demonstration, just right in the middle of the scripted game, because we can actually search through this and have a look through all the cards in the base deck. So there are a ton of different strategies you can work with here, and it all depends on what comes out here, of course. But there are always a ton of different ways to go. We've got a bunch of different lands here that we can take advantage of. If we got a hold of that land, that forest land, that would be fantastic, because not only would we get a bonus off the Earth Elemental, we'd also get a bonus off the Warhorse. But the Beastmaster is there now, and that means we can work with things like the Dragon, which is a 30, but minus 40 unless it's with a Wizard, which the Beastmaster is. Or we can go for the Basilisk, 35, and its penalty gets blanked. And that's if we can get it, of course. Or we could turn around and try and get some more armies in the hand, or maybe even the Queen, because the Queen plus the King plus armies is a ridiculous amount of points. There are so many ways you can take the strategy in this game, because all of these cards work so well together. And there's even room for all sorts of strange scoring strategies, like the Gem of Order. So if I sort by the base score here, if I got the Gem of Order, I would have a 3, 4, 5, 6, and that would get me a run worth 30 points. And I might be able to find like a 7 and use that to get a massive straight and make it work really well for me if the Gem of Order comes up. So it's all about thinking about what strategies you get in that initial hand and then working through them, seeing if the cards are available to make something else work, trying to figure out what their strategies are and trying avoiding them. And it does this all with an incredibly simple set of rules. Draw a card, play a card, figure out what works in your hand and what works together, figure out what they're doing, and it's such a brain burner in such a small package that it's genuinely impressive, and it keeps me engaged throughout the entire game. So with that said, let's actually get this game back on the road, shall we? Do we want to stick with that land strategy? We might be able to make it work with the Book of Changes and make something else a land. So maybe if we get the Doppelganger, we can use that to duplicate a land, but Hell, the Gem of Order might come up, and if we manage to get our hands on a 7, that might turn out really well. Oh, it's the Basilisk. Oh, that is a tough choice. What do we get rid of in exchange for the Basilisk? We want to hold on to the Earth Elemental, because we're going to get like 45 points off that guy. We want to hold on to the Cavern, because it's a land, and we might end up stumbling across the Dwarvish Infantry or the Dragon. I think the King is going to be our discard here. It's the only one that isn't playing into any strategy that we've currently got. Red's put the Warlord back. Interesting. And oh, the Queen is back out. So it looks like no one's going after the army strategy, which is interesting. The question is, what are they going after? They can't be going after the weather strategy, because if I just search through here, all the weather here has some really bad penalties. Like the Blizzard blanks all the floods, and it's -5 for half the cards in the game. The Whirlwind requires 2 specific cards, and the Smoke requires at least 1 flame. So it's possible that they're going after something like that, but man, it looks a bit rough for everyone right now. And that said, let's draw. Oh, there's the Mountain. The Mountain is like the least useful card in the game, because you need Smoke and Wildfire. And Smoke and Wildfire are both kind of hard to plan a deck around, because the Wildfire needs a ton of its penalties blanked out in order to be useful, unless you're going for some really out there strategies. And you also need the Smoke, but thankfully that does also help out if you've got the Wildfire. So it's a very specific strategy to go for, but it's also very high scoring, because it's quite rare, but it also means that I'm also not very likely to go for it. However, in this case, it's also a land, and in this case, the base cost plus the fact that it's going to get that Earth Elemental bonus means that the Warhorse is the one that's worth throwing back. Because the Warhorse was also based around the, oh, we're done! Alright. So, it looks like my book of changes gets to activate. So now I get to choose something and turn it into a land. And I think the obvious choice here is going to be the Beastmaster land. So all the scores get tallied up, and we can have a look at all their individual strategies. What? Wow, I came last. Okay, so that didn't work out too well for me. I did get 49 points off of the Earth Elemental, and I got... Wait, where did I get the 25 from? Dwarvish Infantry. Oh, because, yeah, that decided to pretend to be the army, which did give it more points overall, but it still wasn't enough to put me in first. That wasn't the best hand I've ever had, I gotta say. So let's check out the other hands and see what they went for. So, it looks like we've got an Enchantress who went for land of weather here for 10 bonus points. The Unicorn had the Princess, so no wonder he took that one. The Blizzard didn't do too well, but it wasn't too bad. But he also had the World Tree, which was have something of every individual suit. Or just every blank card is a different suit. So, yeah, he scored off that World Tree big, and he was able to make that work. And it also helped that he had a Wizard to bounce those two off of. Meanwhile, the red computer player, a little bit of an army, a little bit of a weather, bit of a copying strategy going on here with the Fountain of Life, grabbing the base strength of the... What did it get the base strength of? Oh, the warship. So, yeah, that wasn't a bad hand, considering he had the Rainstorm and 2 floods to work with. The army didn't work out too well for the... Oh! No, did he actually get rid of that penalty somehow? Oh yeah, clears the word army because of the warship. Yeah, everyone had a better strategy than I did. And it just goes to show how many little strategies you can have. How many different ways that the game can interplay the cards with each other. And there are so many other little things that you can work with as well. Like there's the Candle that has a 3-card combo, which you might think would be hard, but get your hands on the Mirage or the other thing, and it makes it a lot more worth it because you're removing one benefit, but you're earning yourself 100 points at the end. You've got tons of different kinds of armies, and when you throw them together with the different leaders that are available to you, so if I just scroll back out over here, throw that in with a Warlord, the King, and the Queen, and suddenly you're earning like 50-something points for every bloody army that you've got on the field. And there are all sorts of these neat little strategies to find, and it makes every game so different, and it always keeps the game engaging. Because you've always got different strategies to go for, you've always got different puzzles to think about, and you've always got different neat ideas to think about. And again, the game automatically scores it for you, at least in this version. Admittedly, the longest part of the game in the physical version can be writing down all the numbers and trying to calculate all of the different backs and forths that all your cards have. Thankfully, not only does this version have automatic scoring, but there are apps you can get online that will score for you. Although there was an app that let you take a picture of the cards and then use that to automatically do the scoring, which kind of sucks that it's gone now, but at least there's still like a web browser page you can go to fill in all the cards to score off that. But if you've got no internet, that can be a problem. So let's have a look at our strategy here and go for it. So we got the warship again. We've got the dwarvish infantry in the cavern straight up. So that's a 30-point boost right there. So I think it's pretty clear what the game wants us to go for here. It wants us to get a wizard. For the magic wand, for the bonus points, the dragon to remove the penalty, and the princess for a little bit of extra points. So it looks like our main plan here is going to be a wizard. And I think the smart idea here is to drop the mirage for the shapeshifter, because the shapeshifter can turn into a wizard. We might be able to get a better wizard later on, but for now, this looks like the smartest plan. Although, we do need a flood to make this warship work. So, it might be worth getting rid of the princess to take that flood, because the cavern won't be affected by it. The wizard won't be affected by it, the beast won't be affected by it, and it'll help out the warship. So yeah, we'll take that flood and swap it out for the princess. The red player's taken that princess and dropped out a regular old flood, and he took that flood and dropped out the candle, so he's not going for the Book of Changes, Bell Tower, and Wizard combo. So, we don't want any of them. We're going to take a card from the center deck as the Book of Changes. Do we need the Book of Changes for this hand? I don't really think we do. I mean, if we hung on to it and grabbed something that would serve better as a wizard, that might be worth it, but no, I think we'll stick with what we've got and hope for a better wizard to come out of the deck. Interesting. We don't have Rainstorm, so the lightning isn't worth it, and nobody touched the Book of Changes. There are 2 parts of the 4-part combination out here, so that's interesting. If I had the Bell Tower, that might actually make that worth it, but I mean, if we were able to get all 3 of those cards, no, we would need the. That's not the right one. We need the shapeshift. No, land. No, that is land. So if we were able to get all 3 of those in our hand, we'd be able to make it work. But yeah, I don't think the game's gonna last that long. I think we're just better off drawing this. We don't have a flame. Unfortunate. We're gonna have to let it go. Yep, someone dropped out the mountain because the mountain isn't usually that good. Oh, the Gem of Order. But I don't think... Yeah, if we sort by base here... Yeah, we do not have a run going on. That Gem of Order is not going to be worth it in the long run. Apparently they agreed. We could take the Beastmaster. Would be worth more points in the long run. Yeah, we'll take the Beastmaster and drop the Shapeshifter back out. Shapeshifter was just because we needed a wizard, but... Oh, there's the Bell Tower. Why do I get the feeling if I let this go on too much longer, he's going to try and get the full Book of Changes combo going on. Let's not let that happen. So we have the World Tree. Sort by suit. Yeah. If we drop off, like, the warship, we could make that worth it. Yeah, we drop off the warship, and we have everything as a unique suit. So we just got the World Tree benefit, baby. Alright. Tally up them scores. Wait, what? Oh, damn it. The Great Flood blanked it out. No. Yep, that was me not paying attention. Blanks all lands except mountain. Yep, I went for that one a bit too hard. And I lost a bunch of points as a result. Although, even if those 2 didn't get blanked, I'd still only be in, like, the low 200s. Which means that I still would have lost. So what the hell happened over here? We got Yellow, who had the Gem of Order combo. Ooh, that's a good run for the Gem of Order. Didn't do very well with the Knights, but at the same time, the Knights still complemented the Warlord just fine. And so, yeah, that was a really good play on his part. Not to mention just keeping everything else in this way. Wasn't the best score you can have with the Gem of Order, but yeah, that was still some good stuff going on. But red here had the weather maximum combo. Holy hell. So, rainstorm, no floods, but didn't have to worry about all flames except lightning. 30 points with rainstorm, so that works pretty well. The smoke had a flame, so that worked out pretty damn well. He had rainstorm and blizzard, so that comboed. He had the blizzard, but he only had one flame, so that worked out fine. And the air elemental for the bonus points on all the other weather. And the enchantress, which benefits off land, weather, flood, and flame, and literally everything else in their hand was weather and flame. Brilliant strategy going on there. I love it. There's stuff like this all the time, revealing the hands to all the other players and being like, here's what I had going for me. Getting that Gem of Order off the top of the deck is so good. It's so well done. And it's all of these cards just have so many ways to play off each other, and they all work so well together that these strategies are always emerging. These strategies are always exciting, and these strategies are always a brain burner. What will help me out the most? What am I hoping for to come out of the deck? And as you learn the game, the strategy just becomes more and more just up front, and you're done in this case like less than 10 minutes. But when you're playing in the real world, even if you have to like write down all your scores, it's still like a 20-minute game, 20 to 30 minutes. And as a result, it's fantastic for what it is. A 52-card game that has very simple rules, but manages to fit so much strategy in here thanks to a really good balance of effects and a really cool like set of ideas that works really well in creating a massive amount of strategy. So let's just reload this here, because I will take a moment to talk about part of the Cursed Horde, because I do own the Cursed Horde, and it does add 3 new suits. So you've got the buildings here, which add a bunch of neat little effects based around having certain kinds of suits. You've got the undeads, which work off having stuff in the discard area, which is really unique. And then you've got the angels and the outsiders, which, have really odd effects, like draw a card from the deck right at the end of the game. Draw any card that you want, but it's a ridiculous point penalty to have. And they all add, again, just a bit extra strategy to the game while working really well with all the old stuff, to the point where they actually replaced some of the cards. Like the Great Flood here. It used to be all armies and all lands, but now it's all armies, all buildings, and all lands, because they've swapped out some of those cards to make up for the fact that there is some new stuff in there. And they've also made cards like the Necromancer work better with the undead. And of course, it just adds more and more strategies back in. Not to mention, some cards are going a bit of a buff, because now you actually hold 8 cards in your hand, and you have 12 cards out on the field. And you know what? I'm going to play a game to demonstrate, because why not? So let's take a look at what we got. We've got the Book of Changes out there, and we've got a pretty wide spread, but it looks like we're going to be focused on army and potentially lands. So let's go for a card draw. It's another army. Yeah, we're going to be going for the army strategy, because that appears to be what we're going for here. And we're going to drop off the smoke, because we've got nothing that can make it work yet. Red's popping out the genie. 10 plus points for every other player, and take any other card from the deck and put it in your hand. Immensely powerful if you get the right card. Although again, with more cards in the deck, oh man, there's so many more choices. Let's take another card, because I don't think the Doppelganger is going to help us out here. So let's take another card. What do we get? We got the Warhorse. Might be useful. Probably more useful than the Enchantress in this case. Oh, someone might be going for the Book of Changes strategy, because I saw that candle. We got a dungeon here. Plus 10 for each of the first undead beast and artifact, so that's going to be 20 plus points right off the bat with our current stuff. Although, do we want to stick with this? Well, let's get rid of the Blizzard, because the Blizzard isn't going to be helping us out with the army strategy. Got a candle there. Not very useful. Let's see what we got from the deck. The Death Knight. For each weapon and army in the discard area. It seems to be pushing us towards an undead strategy as well. Although the undeads aren't exactly the best for us at this point. What do we want to get rid of? I don't think I want to get rid of any of this, but we'll make it... What will score us the least? The Lich? We don't have the Necromancer, so... Yeah, we'll just get rid of the Lich for now and see what happens. Someone took the Lich, replaced it with the Enchantress, and the Enchantress has just been taken and replaced with the Warlord. We are taking that Warlord because it adds the base strength of every army that we've got. So he's going to get 37 points off of that. So, we probably want to leave the Queen there, because if the King comes up, that might be useful. So we're going to drop the Death Knight, because it's not going to be worth the bonus at the end. We're going to be going for all the armies. Someone took the Death Knight. Man, they're really focusing on their hands. We do not want the Rainstorm. The Rainstorm is not useful to us. The Ghoul and the Warship. We don't have a Flood. Let's focus on the army strategy. Oh, the Princess. The Princess is going to get like 40 bonus points based on what we've got, so let's drop the Dungeon. That'll be... Yep, that'll be the end of the game, unfortunately. So let's see what we got. My army strategy has benefited a little bit. Yep, there's all the bonus points, but I still just barely... Oh, man. I still came last. So, my stuff worked okay here, but it would have been really good if I managed to get my hands on the King, because that would have been 20 points for each army times 2. It would have been a ridiculous amount of points, and that would have worked out great for me. Yellow, who came second, let's see, they had the Bell Tower, they had a couple of beasts, really powerful beasts, the Dragon and the Basilisk, so that worked out pretty well. They had a Forge, so they could use that with the Smoke, and the Chapel. They had a Leader, no, they had 2 Wizards, so that was able to proc, and that did really well for them, fair enough. And finally, Red, who had the Warlock Lord, the Whirlwind, the Lich, the Death Knight, the Spectre, so they were really working off the discards here. That worked out really well for him. And just the Rainstorm with the extra Great Flood. So, yeah. Again, really good play off those undeads. Adds just a bit more to the strategy, adds just a bit more to the fun. And there is also a second part to the expansion, which is it actually adds what's called cursed items, and these cursed items can give you some special abilities, but you have to take a point penalty in order to use them, like draw some cards, trade cards with other players, etc, etc, etc. I haven't had the opportunity to play with them yet, but honestly the expansion is worth it alone for the 3 suits, because it just adds more strategy. It just makes the game that little bit more interesting, that little bit more varied. And yeah, that's it. Fantasy Realms. A fantastic amount of strategy with a really light amount of rules and a really small deck, so you can take it pretty much anywhere. As long as you got a device, you can do all the scoring for it without having to worry about the score pad. And the amount of different cards and the amount of strategies that works off of all of them and the way that they all work together is fantastic. For 53 cards, having this many potential strategies, this many ways for it to go together, and burning your brain to try and figure out, what do I need? What do I need to work with? It all works so well together, and I can't help but appreciate just how impressive it is that they've managed to make this many combos off of 52 really simple cards. And it's fun to play every time. It goes by really quick. Like, this version here, 10 minutes and you're done. The physical version, barely even 20? And then you just score it in a couple of minutes and that's it. You can play again. It's great for starting up the night, winding down the night. And it's got an expansion, which adds 3 really cool suits, and it's worth buying for them alone. I'm really looking forward to trying out the cursed items, though, and seeing how they change the game, how they make things even more interesting. And you don't even need the cursed items in order to use the new suits. You just go for it. And so, yeah, as a result, I wholeheartedly recommend Fantasy Realms. It's fantastic. You absolutely should pick it up. Nice and small, easy to teach, over in 20 minutes, burns your brain like nothing else of this size. Why not? This has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.